The first time I heard the voices in the holler, I thought it was the wind playing tricks on the old ridges of Laurel Creek. Folks in the Appalachian Mountains say the wind talks sometimes, whispering through pine branches, curving around bluffs, pushing through caves like breath through a hollow reed. But what I heard wasn't the wind. It carried shape,
Tone.
intention, something that wanted me to come closer. My name is Elena Ward, and the story I'm about to tell is the reason I never returned to those mountains, not even when my uncle begged me to come home for his final days. Some places bury their dead in the ground. Appalachia buries them in the air, layered in mist, in memory, in the thick black woods that never fully let you leave. I had come to Laurel Creek in the fall, when the trees burned red and gold like they had caught fire from within. My uncle, Silas Ward, had lived there alone since my aunt passed, 10 years of solitude in the same creaking cabin he'd built when he was barely more than a boy. He wasn't answering calls, wasn't coming into town, wasn't doing anything except leaving strange messages on my voicemail. Sometimes it was only breathing. Sometimes it was my name, Elena, come home. But once, in a trembling, broken voice, he said, "They're back in the holler, girl. I hear him walking at night. I hear him calling. I ain't going out after dark no more." I should have run then. But family is family and mountain blood is thick. I packed my bags and left Atlanta, driving 5 hours into the dark heart of Appalachia, toward a place that smelled like wet earth and old stories. When I reached the cabin, dusk was settling. The long shadows between the trees stretched like limbs, too long, too thin. A darkness that didn't wait for night. Silas wasn't outside. The woods were quiet, deathly still. Even the crickets had fallen silent. Inside, the cabin was cold. A single lamp flickered near his rocking chair, where a Bible lay open on the floor as if he'd dropped it mid-prayer. His boots were beside the door, muddy and torn. His coat hung on the hook, but Silas was gone. I called his name until my voice cracked. Nothing answered except something shifting far out behind the tree line, like someone dragging a foot through the leaves. I locked the door and waited for morning. I didn't sleep. Near midnight, I first heard it. Not wind, not animals. A woman's voice.
Soft. Sweet.
So close it could have been whispering in my ear. "Elena, honey, come outside. I need your help." I froze. It was my mother's voice. But my mother had been dead for 20 years. I covered my ears, but the whisper slid under my palms like smoke. Through the cracks in the shutters, I saw movement. A pale shape at the tree line, bare feet in the leaves, a long white dress shifting in the wind. I whispered to myself, "You're dreaming. It's grief. It's stress." But the voice continued, trembling, pleading, like only a mother could. "You know me, baby, don't you remember?" I didn't go outside. I stayed frozen until dawn seeped through the cabin windows like a weak blessing. When daylight came, the voice vanished, but footprints remained. Small, narrow, unmistakably human footprints circling the cabin, barefoot, despite the cold, leading back into the woods, toward the holler. In the morning, I searched Silas' home.
Maps. Notes.
A journal on the kitchen table filled with shaking handwriting. Words scratched so hard the pencil tore the paper. The voices started again in August. They sound like people I knew. They walk at night. They stop when I pray. Don't answer them. The last entry made my stomach twist. If I disappear, don't follow me. They want someone young. Someone with my blood. Elena must not come home. But I had already come. I tried calling the sheriff. No service. I tried starting the truck. Dead battery. The holler seemed to breathe around me, holding its breath, waiting. I decided to walk toward town. The road bent around the holler, and those Silas warnings rattled through my mind. I had no choice. I took a flashlight, a pocket knife, and the journal. The trees watched me. Every snap of a twig behind me felt intentional, like footsteps matching my own. When I reached the split in the road, the one leading directly into Devil's Holler, as old-timers called it, the air changed. Warmer. Thicker, like stepping into a breath not my own. Something moved in the trees. And then, "Elena?" I stopped breathing. The voice was identical to my Uncle Silas. "Girl, it's me. I'm hurt, come help me." I gripped the knife, so tight my knuckles whitened. "Silas." I called. Where are you? In here, he whispered. Just a little ways. The trees shifted. Something pale flickered between them. A hand. A face. Or the idea of a face.
Thin. Too thin.
I stepped backward onto the main path. No, I said. If you need help, come to me. The voice went silent. Then, she doesn't believe us. The words overlapped. 2 voices, then 3, then dozens, blending into a chorus of whispers stacked on whispers, rising like insects buzzing inside a skull. I ran. Branches tore at my clothes. Roots grabbed at my ankles. The woods seemed to close around me, funneling me back toward the holler as if the land itself wanted me. When I burst out onto the main road, breathless and shaking, the voices stopped suddenly, as if cut off, as if waiting. I made it back to the cabin before dusk. The air felt wrong, too still, too expectant. The sky was bruising purple above the ridges, and night settled faster than it should have. I locked every door and window. I sat on the floor with Silas' journal, flashlight trembling in my hand, and read. The deeper I went, the darker the truth became. Silas wrote of creatures older than the mountains. Things that lived under the holler, in deep stone caverns where no light touched. They mimicked voices, stole memories, lured people into the woods by sounding like lost loved ones. And they wanted bloodlines, families who stayed rooted generation after generation. The wards had been here for centuries. I was a ward. That night, the voices came earlier. 7:14 p.m. Elena, come outside, please. My mother again. But this time I didn't run. I forced myself to stand at the shutter and crack it open a hair. What I saw made bile rise in my throat. A woman stood at the edge of the trees, barefoot, long-haired, wearing a white dress. Exactly like my mother in old photographs. But her head was tilted at a grotesque angle, too far to the left, unnatural, impossible. Her mouth hung slack. And her eyes glowed amber, like an animal caught in light. Beside her stood my uncle Silas, or something wearing his shape. They both lifted their heads at the same time. Elena, they whispered in unison. Let us in. I stepped back so fast I tripped over the chair. Something touched the doorknob.
Turned it slowly. Clicked it.
Then twisted harder. When the lock held, the thing outside exhaled a low, rattling sound, half a moan, half a growl. Nails scraped the door. The wood bowed inward, groaning. I prayed without thinking. The scraping stopped instantly. The voices withdrew. But I heard one final whisper, soft as falling ash. You can't stay in there forever.
I didn't sleep again.
Morning brought no comfort. The footprints were deeper this time, more numerous, leading toward the holler like ants heading to a queen. I packed what I could carry. I planned to follow the ridgeline instead of the road, keeping high ground, avoiding the thick woods, reaching town by sunset. I didn't make it far. Something was waiting. About a mile up the ridge, past an old logging road, I found what looked like a campsite, torn canvas, ripped clothing, a backpack shredded open. Long drag marks led into the underbrush. A sheriff's hat lay in the dirt. My stomach dropped. Someone had come looking for Silas. Someone who didn't return. And then I heard it. A faint whimper. A human sound. I followed it slowly, every instinct screaming to run. The trees thinned, opening into a small clearing. And there, slumped against a fallen log, was Sheriff Dwayne Miller, the same man who used to give me candy when I visited as a kid. But he wasn't whole. His leg was broken, twisted unnaturally. Deep scratches ran across his chest. His eyes were open, wild, terrified. When he saw me, he flinched. Elena, he rasped. God, no, not you. I knelt beside him. What happened? His hand shot out, gripping my wrist. Don't let them take you, he whispered. Don't listen to their voices. They're not people. They're not ghosts. They're... He choked on blood. Something cracked in the woods. Branches snapped. Leaves trembled. Dwayne's eyes widened with terror. They're here. I heard them then. The whispers sliding through the trees like silk tearing. Elena, help us. Elena, don't leave us. Voices of childhood friends. My aunt. My grandmother. People who'd been dead for decades. Dwayne sobbed. You gotta run, girl. I tried. I tried to kill and bullets don't work. Nothing works. Something moved in the shadows, large and crawling. Elena, my mother's voice called sweetly. Come here, darling. I stood, trembling so violently I thought my bones would shatter. Dwayne grabbed my ankle. Don't look back. Don't stop. Run. I ran. I ran until my lungs burned and the world blurred. I didn't hear Dwayne scream, but I felt it, like the air itself shuddered behind me. I reached the cabin after dusk, a mistake, but the only place with a door I could lock. The woods boiled with whispers now, hundreds of voices weaving into a maddening chorus. Elena! 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 They surrounded the cabin completely. I shoved furniture against the door, closed every shutter, sat in the corner with Silas' journal clutched to my chest. The voices grew louder, then quieter. Then one single voice rose above them. Silas. Elena, please let me inside, they're hurting me. I covered my ears. The voice turned colder, flatter. You're coming with us eventually. I prayed again. The voices shrieked in unison, an inhuman, ear-splitting wail, and faded into the trees. Silence fell like a final warning. I left before dawn. I didn't take the road. I didn't take the ridge. I climbed the drainage ditch behind the cabin, crawled through thorn bushes, slipped into old deer trails, never letting myself look back. It took 14 hours to reach town. I stumbled into the sheriff's office covered in mud and scratches, crying, babbling, shaking. A search party went to the cabin. They found nothing. No footprints. No bodies. No signs of struggle. No sign that Silas had ever lived there at all. Only one thing was found, an old, crumbling foundation deep in the holler, where a cabin had once stood 50 years ago before it burned to ash. Silas' cabin was gone. Erased. Like it had never existed. I left Appalachia that night. I never returned. But sometimes, late, when the world is quiet, I hear a voice outside my window.
Soft. Sweet.
Calling my name. Elena. And I know the holler hasn't forgotten me. It never will.